Well, good morning, everybody. This is DearMamaSal on a beautiful Wednesday morning. Yay, Wednesday. For those of you who don't know, Wednesday's my Friday. I have just about a month left before I retire, and I can feel the pressure of the things I want to do before I retire. In as much as there are, while I still have the sort of medical benefits that my job allows me, which are not huge, but medical and dental, do I need to go and do a couple of things before I leave? And, all those sort of things. Redo my will would be a good idea before I leave. So, pragmatic stuff, as they say, as in practical. It is hot. It's only 16 degrees Celsius, 61 Fahrenheit, but it feels much more muggy than that. I can actually feel the perspiration on my body right now. When I grew up, that was known as glow. And you can probably hear that my lungs are still struggling a bit from the trip. I have decided that tomorrow is going to be my rest day. I'm going to let my body absolutely rest. Because I think it actually needs it right now, because not only did it go through all the travel stuff, but also with the cold and everything. And I can't help wondering whether it really is that muggy or whether I'm running a temperature. That's a good thought. Anyway, whatever it is, tomorrow is going to be my rest day. And I'm going to just take it easy all day. Now, what that looks like in my life, we'll find out. But there's not going to be any you have to tomorrow. You have to get up and do this, you have to go and do that, or you have to, it's going to be a day, what would you like to do? Because it's your day. And I wonder whether any of you do that for yourself. And I know you're saying, but I've got children, or I've got a husband, or I've got, all the other reasons. But you can still do it if you want to. You just have to organize it. And my question to you would be, what would you do with that day? If you didn't have to worry about anybody else but yourself, what would you do with your day? I've just realized something. Yay! I don't think there are any people working on the road anymore. I think they finished. Yay! Got the road back. I'll have to check tonight. Actually, I come back a different way, now that I think about it. But it's interesting. After months and months and months of being held up by the traffic people, and the road construction people, suddenly, well, the traffic's, what do you call them? The people who organize the traffic when the construction is going on. I know you all have the answer for me. Yeah, I'll think of it somewhere around next week. Flag people, I think they're called. There we go. I always think that must be a rotten job in this part of the world. Because either it's cold, well, not cold on your terms perhaps, but cold in our terms, or it's very wet, or it's pretty darn hot for us. Not for you, but for us. So you have to be able to stand out in all weathers to do that. Not my job. You know, when I think of jobs I would like in my life, that it doesn't rate highly. I had a really nice call last night from one of my other sons. As you know, I have a number of them, and you guys are mostly aware of my relationship with Benji. But Benji is not alone. He has adopted brothers. And one of them, I think I did record him once when he hit town. Cisco, he phoned me last night. And you know, the first question you have to ask Cisco when he phones you is, where exactly are you today? Now, the reason that I have to ask that is because sometimes he's in the Netherlands, and sometimes he's in the States, and then other times he might be in Toronto, but you're never quite sure where, right? So I don't know about you, but I like to have a sort of base point so that I can visualize him. Well, he phoned me last night from his car, traveling between Toronto and New York. He decided to drive it for whatever reason. Probably needed time to think about something. But we had a great chat. I was actually delighted to talk to him. And the funny thing is, the really funny thing is that he said to me, oh, well, if you're retiring, can I use your brain? Can I hire you? And I said, what, to be an intern? Anyway, it was really quite cute. So I tried to find out what it was he wanted me to do for him, and actually it was to manage some people. He's trying to get a particular project done, and he needs somebody that will make sure it gets done. So anyway, it was very cute. But I did tell him the first thing I'm going to do when I retire is rest, because I know my body is calling for that. Now, rest, as you know, is all about relative stuff. It can be very restful being very busy if you're doing stuff you love. But I certainly don't want to get straight into working again right after I've retired. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I said, you know, oops. Quite sure what all that was about, but it's actually a new vehicle. It wasn't an ambulance, it's a paramedic SUV. Obviously they've changed the response thing. Wow. I was watching, you know, when you don't have any rules of the road because you're a paramedic, it's very interesting to see what they do. For example, the bozos in front of me didn't pull over to make room for the paramedic, which I'm sure did not amuse the paramedic at all. But he or she actually cut to the right as though they were going down a feeder road that way and did a U-turn and came back, and then missing all the bozo people who didn't move over for him or her. Huh. Quite interesting. Would not have thought of doing that. Obviously they get special driving training. Life's full of interesting things if you got your eyes open, right? Now, I really wanted to thank those of you who replied on my question about what you do for energy. It was interesting how many of you said your children. That was interesting to me, that you get your energy. Now, I wasn't sure whether that was because you have to have, or whether they actually energize you, you know. And at least one other person mentioned their pet, which I thought was cute. Actually, two pets. I think the kitties came in the plural. Yep, the construction has moved to this part of town. I'm not going to miss the commute, am I? Well, while we are delayed, which is quite a bit actually, it's already past the time I should be at work. I was thinking about just quickly updating you on security that I saw. I know that a lot of you were very concerned about the security at VidCon. I actually was quite surprised, both at the level at one end and then the lack of level on another. Let me try and explain that. I think that they really did a great job of protecting the big name stars. You know, they brought them in sort of under the radar in special sort of almost Secret Service type SUVs, and they, you know, brought them into the back end of the convention center and kept them under wraps sort of thing, so that there was no threat to them. The other side of it was I was surprised how easily you could get in and out of the convention center without anybody checking your bags or whatever. And that did concern me a little bit, even if it had been random. Because it was, you know, that many people coming in and out every day. In an event that holds 26,000 people coming and going, you know, that's quite a big number of people. So I was surprised that there wasn't more. I mean, there were plenty of security people, don't get me wrong. There were security people at every level. But they were just checking, do you have a badge? Well, if your intent is to do harm and you're planning this, the first thing you'd plan is to make sure you had the right badge. And that's not difficult to get, you just buy one. So I was a little bit concerned about that, I have to be quite honest. Now, after what happened at Istanbul last night, and for those of you who don't know, there was a terrorist attack, 3 terrorists. And I was thinking about the level of security at the airports. Now, I must admit that both Vancouver and LAX have pretty solid security measures from what I see. Not only overt, you know, stuff that you can see, but covert, stuff you can't see. And the covert would be plainclothes, the covert would be cameras on everything anyway, from, you know, different angles and everything. And I am pretty sure that you don't get to move more than a couple of inches that the next camera doesn't pick you up again, right? So I'm not saying that makes it impossible for anybody to do any harm at either of those airports, but it definitely is higher security because it is a high target. And I did think about that when I was coming through LAX. And what I did, and I don't know if this makes any sense, was that when I got into LAX, I tried to very quickly get out of the common areas. When I say the common areas, but where people were congregating for whatever reason. Now, some places you can't help but be caught, you know, like in security checks and so forth. You know, you're in a lineup and you can't dodge that, you can't make it quicker, you can't avoid it. So you've got to be in that reality. But I also noticed that they were actually funneling people into there by a number at a time. In other words, they were funneling like 20 people, a group of 20 would be released, and then they would go through, and then the next group of 20 and so forth. So they were trying very hard to keep the main crowd away from the actual security area, which I think is a very good idea. And it must make it a lot easier for them to check on the shifty looking people like myself. I don't know what it is about me that they pick on me. I've had the x-ray. I've never had the full body pat down before. And not only that, after they patted me down, you know, they checked for explosives. I mean, I know that I've got a dynamic personality, but really. Yeah. So it was a little challenging. But you know, you really do have to get your mind in the right place, and I thank them for, you know, the job that they do. I always try and make sure I do that, regardless of how inconvenient it is and how much it frustrates me. I will smile sweetly and say, thank you so much for the job you do. Because I do realize that they do have to pick on some people. I just would like to have a little note in my head that they can read, scan, and go, you know, we picked on her enough now. Actually, I do know part of the reason why I get picked on. I met some guys from the border once. The Border Patrol guys. I spoke for them once. They invited me to be their keynote speaker at an event. And when I'd finished doing it, the top guy said to me, oh boy, you must have fun when you try and cross borders and things. And I go, yeah, how did you know that? He said, well, you instinctively do things that we keep an eye out for. I said, really? And he said, yep. And I said, what do you mean, instinctively do things? He said, well, you are a true performer, aren't you? And I said, meaning? He said, well, so much of what you say is in your facial expressions, the way you move your eyebrows, the way you move your eyes, your hands, everything. And I'm saying, why does that make me a target for you guys? And he said, because it is a performance thing. And people, when they're trying to look relaxed when they're not, will do the same things. Or people who are trying to pretend that they're quite normal, they will have the same body language, even if what their intent is very different. I'm going, really? He said, yep. And I never realized just how much I do that. I'm sure you're all busy watching my body language now, and luckily I'm driving, so I can't do too much of it. But apparently I do lift my eyebrows a lot, and I do other things that they look for. Don't know if you ever saw the program Lie to Me. It didn't last very long, but it was a great program about the micro facial expression changes that people have when they're telling lies or whatever. And apparently I do them. I do them not because I'm lying, I do them because I'm a performer. Anyway, it was very cute. So I have subsequently learned not to take it personally. So when I do go through those sort of security things, I always thank everybody. All right, so having said that, sometimes you're going to be the person that they're going to stop in life. Sometimes that's just going to happen. So what I want you to do is just smile sweetly and let it go, as I have to. Actually, I'm quite surprised sometimes if they don't stop me. I'm almost inclined to say, hang on a second, don't you want to check me out? This is DearMamaSal saying, how stupid can I be? Don't answer that. Bye-bye for now.